we not doing videos anymore?
No, we are. We're not. We didn't do a video because I didn't tell you this weekend. So we will do a video again. But the next 2 days are just parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines, and you don't really honestly need to know this too much this year, but it will come up next year. Parallel lines are signified. That's what it looks like, the little symbol for parallel lines, the two lines. Okay? And we're talking about perpendicular as well. Generally, once I learn how to spell, generally parallel and perpendicular go together. Okay, and its symbol is represented almost like an upside down T. Okay, so parallel and perpendicular lines. All right, so let's just jump right in. First thing we want to do is find the slope of A. Okay, we want to find the slope of A. Okay, for those of you guys who can't see it, that's our line A right there. Okay, we want to find the slope. There's a point here. And then I'm going to count up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. It's kind of hard to see from where you are, but on your paper you should be looking at, you can see it's up 1 over 2, which means the slope is what? Yeah, slope is 1/2 or 1 over 2, right? Okay, let's look at line B. Okay, B is this one. So look on your paper. This is B. And you should be able to figure out what's the slope there. Okay, it is also half. Okay. Everybody knows how to find slope, yes? Rise over run, right? Some of you guys are getting it backwards. Okay, so make sure you're doing the rise, so you're up, your y-axis, okay? Rise over run. All right, so change your y over change an x, right? Okay, let's look at C. Stop tapping, please. C is this line right here. And we have a slope of up 1. I'm sorry, we have up 1 over what? I'm sorry, not up 1. Up what? Up 2 over 1. Okay, so up 2 over 1 gives you what? A slope of 2 over 1, which reduces down to 2. Very good. Let's look at D, our last one. What's the slope there? Okay, -2 this time because it's going to go down 1 over, down 2 over 1. All right. So let's compare the lines. Lines A and B, what would you tell me about lines A and B? Parallel, okay? So they're parallel. Lines B and C, what do you think they are? So here's B, here's C. So you guys say perpendicular. And then lines A and D, right there. And you also say those are perpendicular. Now here's my question to you. As you gave me very confident answers, which is good. Okay, always answer with confidence. Where is your confidence coming from? How do you know what a parallel line is? Tell me what you know about parallel. They don't ever intersect. Okay, what else? Or what do you know about perpendicular, I should say? They cross. They intersect. Is there anything else you know about perpendicular?
They have the same slope?
Nope.
They have opposite slopes, so negative.
Kind of. Okay, I'm not asking you to conjecture. I'm not asking you to look at what you figured out. I'm asking you to tell me what you already know before today. Okay, you knew parallel lines never intersected. You knew perpendiculars intersected.
And perpendicular lines can go on forever, but still always end up crossing.
Sure, perpendicular lines will always cross. All the lines go on forever. Okay, what else though? There's something else you should have remembered. Perpendicular lines are not just intersecting, there's something special about their intersection.
They intersect only once, don't they?
Yes. How about, yes. Well, all intersecting lines will make some X. And actually, well, yeah, they do if you turn it the right way. Okay? Perpendicular lines intersect to create what? So I heard somebody kind of whisper it. No? Okay. There you go. 90-degree angle. You should know that walking into here. A lot of lines intersect, okay? This line right here and this line right here intersect, okay? This line right here and this line right here intersect. But we don't call those perpendicular lines because perpendicular are special lines that intersect. They intersect to create 90-degree angles, okay? So now let's make some conjectures. And that's just deducting what you've learned. What can you tell me about parallel lines? Why do you think they never cross? Because their slopes are the same. Okay, so parallel lines never cross because they have the same slope. Okay, let's look at that for a minute. If you look at this line A right here, and B, we already established that they were parallel. Well, if I have a slope of what we said was 1/2, I'm going to go up 1 over 1, 2. Okay? Well, let's go down to this line. If I go up 1 over 1, 2. Up 1 over 1, 2. What's happening every time I go up 1 over 1, 2 to line A? What's happening to B?
The same thing.
The same thing. Which is why that it's kind of like this. I'm never going to catch them. It's like if you're ever on the stairs. You guys ever get on stairs, and if you guys get on stairs, you're at the top, or let's say you're not even at the top. Let's say you're just 5 steps ahead of the person below you. But if you walk at the same rate, which is just like slope, right? If you go up 1 stairs, I go up 1 stairs. You go up 1 stairs, I go up 1 stairs. Am I ever going to catch you? No, because we're parallel. We have the same rate. If you ever get in a car and you're driving on the highway, and you see your buddy, he's in the car ahead of you. Oh, that's my buddy up there. Okay? If he's going 70 miles per hour on the highway, and you're going 70 miles per hour on the highway, but he's 100 yards ahead of you, are you ever going to catch him? No, because you have the same rate. You would have to go 71 miles per hour to eventually catch him. Right? Okay, so that's why. Parallel lines will never intersect. Okay? So parallel lines never intersect because they have the same slope. What about perpendicular lines? Well, let's go back 1 step. What can you tell me about any intersecting lines? Any lines intersect, what can you tell me? Simple.
About what we've already learned about.
What we just talked about.
No.
I just said parallel lines never intersect because they have the same slope. So what about intersecting lines?
They cross because their slopes are opposite.
They don't have the same slope. Not necessarily they're opposite, but if I have a slope of 1/2 and a slope of 1/3, I'm eventually going to catch up to that one, right? Just like I said, if you're going 70 miles per hour, or your buddy's... That look like this right here. I'm sorry, I said parallel. I meant intersecting lines. But this might be what your graph looks like. Are they intersecting right there?
No.
No, but what do you know is going to happen? Yeah, they're going to intersect at some point. If I keep going, they're going to intersect. Okay, so we know parallel lines have the same slope. That's why they never intersect. We know the intersecting lines have different slope at all, just some type of different slope. And that means they're going to at some point intersect. Okay, so now let's evaluate a little more closely perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines do what?
Cross.
They intersect. Okay, they cross. So that means we automatically know what? They have what? Different slopes. We know right now they have different slopes. So now we need to figure out what makes them perpendicular. Why are they special compared to the other ones? So let's, again, which ones do we say were perpendicular?
C and D.
C and D? No, we didn't say C and D were.
B and D and A and D.
B and C are perpendicular,
They're all perpendicular. C and D.
and A and D are perpendicular, right? To each other. What I mean by that is B and C are perpendicular to each other, A and D are perpendicular to each other. So let's evaluate. Let's look there.
Aren't they all like A is perpendicular to C and A is perpendicular to D?
A is not perpendicular to C.
Wait, they cross.
But they cross. Just because they cross doesn't mean they're perpendicular.
Because it don't
Okay,
make a
yeah.
90-degree angle,
Right.
so it's parallel.
Okay.
You
What
good?
do we call that then?
Just intersecting lines.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So A and C are not perpendicular because if you look up here, here's C, here's A. They're not perpendicular because they just intersect. They don't make a 90-degree angle. Okay? So let's evaluate then closely our slopes. And let's see what we can determine. So look at A and D. What do we know about A and D? The slopes. Compare them. Okay? So the first thing that I heard, whoops. Opposite signs. Okay? Good. What else?
Opposite reciprocals.
Okay, so you're adding to it. So then I heard that they were reciprocal. Okay, so I have opposite signs and reciprocals. Okay? Or, like somebody said, they're opposite reciprocals. Okay? And that's exactly right. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay? So you might want to write that down. Okay? Have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now, if you have a hard time with that, another thing that you can do, and we don't teach this a whole lot, and you don't necessarily need this or not, if you can identify opposite reciprocal and you have no problem with that, okay, another thing that you can do is you can test your perpendicular by multiplying the slopes together. Okay, watch what I do. We said A and D are perpendicular, right? So, slope A times slope B, okay, so A is 1/2, right? Times B, I'm sorry, I said B, I meant D, excuse me. Whoops. Okay, so A is 1/2, D is -2. If I want to multiply, I can put them -2 over 1, right? 1 times -2 is what? -2. 2 times 1 is 2. So my slope is, so my result, my product is -1. Okay? Put a pin in that for just a second. Let's see. Now, we've already determined this by looking at it, but let's prove this now, because in geometry we prove everything for the most part. So let's prove this now. Let's look at B and C. Let's see if they're opposite reciprocals. Now, we're not going to look at it like that. We're going to multiply them together. So slope B times slope C. Slope B is 1/2. And it actually should be -1/2, right? Oh no, it's positive 1/2. Okay. In line C is 2, right? So what is our product?
But would you multiply by the reciprocal of line?
I'm just multiplying by what we already know the slopes to be.
Oh, okay.
So what's the product? 1, right? Is that a problem? Are B and C perpendicular? Okay, let's talk about this again. We said that perpendicular lines are opposite signs and reciprocals, right? Everybody agree with that, right? So let's look at B and C. Are they opposite sign? Okay. Are they perpendicular? No, because they're not opposite signs. Now let's look closely at those lines again. I think we jumped the gun earlier. So here's B. Here's C. Now, I don't always like to rely on our eyeball test, but on our eyeball test, can we clearly see that there's not a 90-degree angle there? Yeah. So they are not perpendicular. So here, we've made a mistake. B and C are just simply what? They are just intersecting lines. If we have opposite signs and reciprocals, or opposite reciprocals, then whenever we measure our multiply our slopes together, what should the result always be? Negative. What should the slope always be when you multiply perpendicular slopes together? Negative 1. They should always be negative 1. If you multiply your two slopes together and they don't come out to be negative 1, you do not have perpendicular. You understand?
So it always has to be.
Yes. All right, let's look at our next examples. So here we're going to be given a slope of 2/3. What's a slope that's parallel to 2/3? Well, that's right. It's the same thing. Pretty simple. 2/3, right? What's a perpendicular slope? Negative 3/2. Opposite reciprocal, right? Now let's look at that real quick. If I multiply that by 2/3, the original slope, what do I get? Negative 6/6, right? Which is equal to negative 1. Whoops. Okay? Negative, whoops. Dang. Okay, forget it. It's equal to negative 1. Just trust me, it's on the side over there. Okay? Now, what's the problem with our math up there? Hold on. I'll get there. Okay, what's the problem? What do we do wrong? The top should be what? The top should be what? Negative 6. The bottom should be positive 6. Okay, let's look at the next one. What's the slope parallel to negative 4? Negative 4, right? What's a perpendicular slope? Negative, 1/4, right? Y'all said 1/4, not negative. Okay, let's multiply that by the original slope. So 1/4 times negative 4/1, essentially. 1 times negative 4 is? Negative 4 over 4 times 1 is? 4. Is that equal negative 1? Yes, it does.
It always has to equal negative 1. It can't be positive.
That's right. That's right. Okay? Let's look at the next one. What's the slope parallel to negative 1/4? Negative 1/4. Perpendicular? Positive 4. We're not going to multiply that one. We think we got the gist here. Next one. What's slope parallel to 2? 2. Perpendicular? Negative 1/2. Okay? What about a slope that's undefined? Okay, it is also undefined. Okay, what do we know about undefined slopes? What kind of line do we have? Okay, good. We have a vertical line. Okay, so what do you think the slope of a perpendicular line would be? 0. Because what's perpendicular to a vertical line? A horizontal line. It's got to be perfectly straight, horizontal, right? Okay, so that's always going to be the case. Horizontal, undefined. Horizontal 0. Perpendicular is vertical, undefined. Okay. Lines that are parallel have slopes that are the same, right? Lines that are perpendicular have slopes that are Opposite reciprocal or negative reciprocals.
What happens with the side of the board over there?
It's just dark. I don't know. It just write in there a negative reciprocal. Hopefully you spell it better than me. Negative reciprocal. At this point, you should be able to fill a lot of this in on your own. Okay, somebody give me a line parallel to y equals 4x minus 3.
Wait, can you say opposite reciprocal?
Same thing, yes. Somebody give me a line that's parallel to y equals 4x minus 3. JD, go ahead.
Y equals 4x minus 2.
Okay, y equals 4x minus 2, right? What changed?
The
Y-intercept.
y-intercept.
Y-intercept. Why did the y-intercept have to change?
So it could be parallel.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be the same exact lane, so that way it's parallel. Two different lines make it parallel. Okay, so give me one that's perpendicular to y equals 4x minus 3.
Y equals negative.
Y equals
One over four.
Y equals
Negative
Negative
1/4
1/4
x.
minus 3.
I heard plus 4. But it could be minus 3 as well, yeah. So y equals negative 1/4 x plus 4. Sorry you can't see it on here, but anything, it'd be y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3, y equals negative 1/4 x minus 2. It doesn't matter what the b is. Yes?
Is it okay when you give an equation? Is it okay if it has the same y-intercept?
No, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. So you could have done y equals negative 1/4 x minus 3. It would have worked too. Okay, so give it a line parallel to y equals negative 1/8 x plus 2.
Y equals
Negative 1/8.
Okay, now, here's what you need to do. And I apologize we ran out of time, but